All right, welcome to our PAX panel, Geeks Parenting, Tabletop Adventures, and Dicey Decisions. My name is Rob, and I'm the co-founder of Geeks vs. Geeks, a family-run website and community all about sharing geek experiences with multiple generations. And I'm glad that we get to be here to participate in this first and hopefully really last PAX online only. Hopefully everybody is safe. I'm glad that you are here. And our last two panels that we've done for PAX were about a broad spectrum of geek parenting and sharing geek adventures with everybody in the family. Today, we try to focus a bit more on one category being board games. And to help me with that, I have an extensive panel of very experienced board gamers and geeks extraordinaire. And I'll let them introduce themselves to you, and then we'll get on the way with our panel. So, Katie, you want to take it away?
Sure. Hi, I'm Katie Postma. I've been working as a community manager and social media manager for video games for about 17 years. Starting on the Myst brand of games, and I've worked for IPs like Game of Thrones and Stargate and Star Trek. I currently work for Stoic on the Banner Saga series of games, and I have a couple other side contracts that I do for fun and profit. I've been playing board games probably like anyone my age since I was a kid. We had, Monopoly and Scrabble in the house, but about 6 years ago, I saw a Kickstarter for something called Scythe, and I bought it for my son for Christmas, and we never looked back after that. We had Catan already, but then we just started getting all the contemporary, I guess we'd call it, board games. So I've been playing board games with my kids since they were about 4 and 2, and now they're 24 and 22.
All right, well, welcome on the panel. Nice to have you back. Rich.
Thank you.
So my name is Rich Weil. I work for a company called Mod Squad. We support a lot of different companies with customer support and community relations and moderation kind of stuff. And we work for a lot of companies in the game industry. And prior to that, I worked for some game companies, including Cartoon Network's Game Division and some other ones. And I started with board games very early. The first, especially with what is commonly called Hex Encounter war games. The first one I can remember clearly is playing Minas Tirith, which was a war game about the siege of Minas Tirith from Lord of the Rings. So I am a historian by education, and that one of the reasons for that is I grew up also playing a lot of historical board games. And when the renaissance of board games finally caught up to me and made me even cooler than I am now, or than I was then I definitely was just fascinated to see a lot of the different avenues that were taken, things like Ticket to Ride and of course Catan and Small World and all those good ones, So I have two kids. They are now 18 and 16. But we grew up playing all kinds of different games, including classics, So I've definitely had kind of gaming in my whole, DNA from a, very early age.
Awesome. Welcome to have you on board. And last but not least, Linda.
Hi, I'm Linda Carlson, and my resume includes my young brother and sister living me from the age of 9 on. So, of course, we did a lot of gaming. Oh, I should mention, of course, my start in board gaming was with horrible games like Snakes and Ladders and Monopoly, a lingering source of childhood trauma, especially in Monopoly, where, my sisters and I are still not talking some 45 years later. So yeah, my brother and my sister, they liked gaming. And then I had a son, and he was a really good gamer. And I was very regretful the day that I introduced him to Warhammer. And within 2 weeks, he was beating me everywhere with every team. And now he has 3 kids of his own, so the cycle has started again. And all 3 of those kids are heavy-duty gamers. So I'm super happy to be on this panel. I will say that with, as Rich put it, the renaissance in board gaming, there are so many fantastic options out there that I really had a tough time narrowing down a list for this podcast. I mean, it should just be me talking for 4 hours about all of the games that I love the most, but fine. I'll settle for your format. Got it. I'll take your instructions. Thank you for letting me be here.
Thank you for being here. And that's one thing I noticed with everybody. Everybody sent different lists, and nobody, everybody seemed to have trouble sticking to the choosing like just the top 3. And it's just a matter of time. We only get an hour, so we have to fit it in. But hey, maybe it's a web series in the making. Who knows?
I definitely didn't stick to the criteria. I'm not going to start respecting moderators now.
Yeah, so I'll talk about board games real quick before we just really get into that top 3. I just wanted to talk about a few things because obviously, as Rich alluded, is a new renaissance of board gaming. It's really stepped up. Kickstarter really allowed a lot of people to make different board games than your classics that we've all known. And even to the day, it seems that a lot of people are not even aware that there's so many different kinds of board games. And these are people that like board games. They're like, oh yeah, I love playing board games. I play Monopoly or Risk every weekend. And I'm like, oh, child, let me introduce you to the world, right? What's out there right now. And the other thing about it is, as well, is this is just a small collection out of my closet upstairs. It's very addicting. I keep buying new ones. In fact, I have a couple already coming in right now in the mail, hopefully within the next few weeks. But what makes board games so special for you?
So for me...
Sure, I'll start.
No.
Oh, okay, fine. Katie can start.
For me, part of the draw was like screens kind of started appearing in our house. I think my son was about 1 or 2 years old. And so that's when we got our first home computer, and, we started having cell phones and stuff. And so, by the time iPhones and iPads rolled around, yeah, obviously screens are very attractive. They're shiny and bright and they're quick and all those awesome things. So it was really important for me that we did some things as a family to get away from, say, we would watch movies together, on Friday and Saturday nights, not school nights. But even on school nights, we always had dinner together at the table where we could face each other. And then it was really easy to transition to putting a board game on the table to just extend that family time conversation, teaching them how to be what I call, not be a sore winner, right? How to be a good loser. Those are really important things. It's good for math. It's good for strategy. It's good for languages. The younger they are when you start, it's just like reading. It's good for colors and numbers and everything else. So that was it for me, was just that face-to-face time was really important because my kids were really small at the advent of what we call screens now.
So speaking of screens, I mean, we really need to talk about one of my major beefs in gaming is when everybody sitting around the gaming table now has one of these and they're busy in between turns. I hate that too. So there's an unofficial rule that you can't bring those to the table. And Rob knows, he's gone to a little guild event that we have every year called Orcfest. And there's nothing worse when you're playing with a table of 12 people around if half of them are distracted. But yeah, the thing about board gaming is it's interactive educational entertainment, and the education portion is accidental and built right into the games. Critical thinking, risk management, advanced planning, just executing on thoughts and developing skills that are absolutely critical in life. And there's nothing better than watching kids implement some of these rules into their day-to-day behavior because they don't even know that they're learning. And, there's chances for old fogies like us to keep learning too. So anyway, plus I must admit that I love games for the art and the components and all of that. I mean, it has to be a beautiful visual tableau for me as well. So it's art as well as education and fun.
All right, just Rich, you have anything to add? They left you like 20 seconds.
Yeah, they covered a lot of kind of my early motivations, but also just coming from somebody who grew up playing games myself, and especially getting into some of the more complicated games like at 10 or 12. Honestly, there was a conscious decision on my part. It's like, we're going to start at an early age playing easy games, the classics and stuff like that, because I would like for them to understand games and have the ability to play them more complicated ones, later on, and also just for the social just for the activity, to do. So I will say there probably was a little bit in there of, I want you to be a gamer, so I'm going to teach you how to play games kind of thing. But, also there's a lot of other benefits to it too. So I didn't feel very guilty.
Could be worse things to do. Linda, I have a follow-up question real quickly. I didn't plan for it, but you mentioned screens at the table. How do you feel about those hybrid games that are now starting to develop where your phone becomes part of the board games?
We're back and forth on this because I'm married to a man who loves tech, loves apps, loves any of that stuff. And so he loves the games that have the interactive thing. And I hate them because I'm going, why are we bothering to play this on a tabletop at all? I mean, why don't we just go play games on the computer? There's plenty of those. He's starting to win me over slowly because there are games that incorporate it well. But for me, I don't want to say it's a slippery slope, but I'm not typically drawn to those games because then you're stuck with something that you have to have a technical connection to. And I like to just unplug all the things when I'm playing games.
But I find we only have 2 or 3 that are like that, but I like that they're a little bit different. One of the things we do when we put a board game down on the table is I have about 7 or 8 different Spotify playlists that we use for different games. If it's a game about trains, we have a train list. If it's a game about space, we have a space list. If it's a game of, with woods and RPG, then we just play Lord of the Rings probably. But so we have all these playlists. But if it's a game like you're talking about, like Expedition or what is it called? Oh, Mansions of Madness, I think. Like, if you're doing one of those, the music and atmosphere is built right in. And I think it really helps the immersion. You're going to be less likely to be on your phone when there's kind of this creepy music. Like, really, it's just creepy music. And all you're doing is it's telling you when to take your turn and, who's dead in the corner kind of thing. So I don't mind that part of it at all. We have a rule where one person can bring a phone to the table. It's usually the rule guru, my son-in-law, and he can bring his phone to the table. So if we have to look up a rule, or if we have to look up how to play video, or if we need to use it for choosing who goes first or rolling, dice rolling app or whatever.
I'm not known for my mental flexibility. No phones with games.
I was going to say, I wanted to hear from the confirmed Luddite in the group.
Absolutely not. Out of the question.
Wow. Yeah, but what if you want to look up a rule real quick?
Why would I not understand the rules myself?
Dude, there are some rules out there that, don't get me started on rule books, because there are a couple that are like...
Let me tell you about a game sometime called Objective Moscow. If I can get the rules right for that game, I'm not worried about any game.
Yeah, but you guys have finer minds than I, because I look at these and I'm like, what? Anyway.
Yeah, that's a whole different topic as well, to talk about rule books and how they can be definitely a problem with that. I think the house rules really help with that, as long as you're consistent.
Absolutely.
Monopoly was mentioned a few times already, but what are moments of frustrations, or did you have those, let's put it this way, at your family table, where maybe there was the sore loser attitude, or the opposite, sore winner attitude, or people wanting to flip the table, or just because the game mechanics may be played into that kind of sort of feeling of disappointment, perhaps? Like, did you have those frustrating moments with board games at all, and how did you deal with those at that time?
Okay, that's it. I'm grabbing the first speaker slot on this one so I can get it off my chest. Games are an evolution. And when kids are playing games, I mean, I've seen it playing with adults where people get frustrated. They want to walk away. When this happens and you're playing with kids, let them walk away. Don't force them. Let them go have their time out. If they're smart enough to walk away when they're feeling agitated or upset, that's fine. You can carry on the game with whatever players you have left, even if, if you're the adult at the table, if you end up playing that part so that you can continue the game. At the same time, it's not a bad idea sometimes to say, okay, this person didn't understand how the game worked. Now they do, and they're frustrated. Can we restart the game? Or let's have a break and play a different game. I mean, frustration is a natural part of life, and this is our opportunity to help kids understand how to deal with that. And also, if you're going to be a sore winner, boy, I've seen it's like just wait till next time, dude. Just wait till next time. Someone else is going to win, and you're going to have to get off that high horse. Okay, done.
Absolutely right. Absolutely right. We do the same thing. If people start getting frustrated, I'm like, all right, let's everybody go around one more time. Like I try to wind it down instead of them wanting to table flip. I'm like, you know what? You're frustrated. It's late. Monopoly sucks. We all agree. So here's what we'll do. We'll do one. Everybody passes go one more time. We'll count what we have and declare a winner because it's, 3 a.m. and we've been playing since Tuesday. But we generally don't play Monopoly.
Fun fact about Monopoly is most people play it wrong, by the way.
Oh, we know. Because if you play it right, you're playing for life. Like you have to will your game to your grandkids to keep playing for you.
So, I agree with a lot of what Linda said and Katie too. It's absolutely a chance to teach lessons. And again, growing up playing games, like, a lot of the games I played when I was, 10, 12, all the way through were very complicated. So first game was always, there's no stakes here. We're just going to learn. We're going to play it through. We're going to learn the game. Sometimes it was, we're going to set up the game, play 2 turns, and then set up the game again, and start from the beginning again. So I had a lot of mechanisms in my mind about how to properly learn a game, which, I taught to the kids as well. And then also, I think it is really important to understand how to be a good winner and a good loser. I did tend to make the kids stick to it. I wasn't quite of the same mindset of let them walk away. I wouldn't do that. I was like, no, but there's also other mechanisms I used for that as well. When I was growing up, we always played Risk with this family who lived across the street, like me and my big sister and a bunch of them. They had 7 kids, right? The Spawners, fantastic people. And so we played Risk a lot. And one of the great things about playing with them that I learned was even when I was getting my butt kicked, if I came up with some kind of innovative strategy to stay alive a little bit longer, they made a big deal out of it. They're like, oh, that's brilliant. Like, yeah, you're going to get crushed, but you should have been crushed three turns ago. That's brilliant. So always have something kind of hang a point of pride on, I think is important, and to encourage other people is important. And I do think the whole good winner, good loser thing is also important. And that's kind of one of the things I thought, look, if you're going to lose, you still have to play it out, but you don't have to play it out by the book. You can do crazy things. Why not have some fun with it, kind of thing. So, so that's kind of been my experience with that, but it is super important to teach the good winner, good loser, mindsets.
If I go down, I'm trying to take somebody else with me.
Exactly.
That's what my husband does. He will not play a co-op game. He's like, what am I playing that for? Nobody wins, nobody loses. I'm like, we all win. So do I.
I played
right? And he's
like Civilization tournament at a wargaming convention one time in College Station, and we were playing Civilization. I was like in 4th place or something towards the end. The guy in 1st place was a nice guy. The guy in 2nd place was an whole game. So when I was getting, pardon my language, when I was getting knocked out, I made sure that the guy in 1st place was going to stay in 1st place. And
yes,
the guy in 2nd place had a complete hissy fit about it, which made it even better.
That makes it, that's what my husband does.
All within the rules.
He's like, here, Ben, have all my sheep. I'm like, I just told you I need sheep. He's like, but you're winning. I can't let you win. Like, oh man, he will not play a co-op game. He won't do it.
That dynamic makes you that kind of flexible mentality, like teaching that flexible mentality with games. It's not really binary, especially, you have 4 or 5 players. It's not really binary. It also helps teach, relationships and co-op games, even cooperation, even in a competitive game. So, as long as it's not collusion.
So final question, and then we'll go down to our top 3s for each category. The format that we have today are as in 2 categories, main categories, 4 to 9 years old and 10 to 15, and then everything above. And we might do a bonus round for 4 and under if we get a chance, or at least mention a game. But my question is, if you pick a game, what is your driving factor for bringing a game back with your family? Is it the content or theme that makes you pick it or stop you from picking it? Is it perhaps the mechanics of the game, or is there something else that weighs more for you in that decision?
there's so many different answers to this question. Sorry to go first. I should probably let Rich go first at some point. For us, because we're new-ish, like, I mean, we've had Catan for 20 years, but we've only had contemporary games for 6. So I started by, getting Ticket to Ride and Pandemic and Seven Wonders and like the ones you have to have, right? And but the way I did that is I got Ticket to Ride and I think I got Exploding Kittens maybe. And then I went to the board game group on Facebook and I said, I need you guys to tell me what 5 games to get first so that I can become a true, epic gamer. And I got 200 answers. So what I did is I counted the ones that appeared most frequently and I got those. So that's why we got Seven Wonders, Pandemic, what's the one with the gems? Splendor, Dominion. Like we got some really great games and we started playing those and we were like, okay, I trust anything these people tell me. And then we just started whenever I heard like the next greatest game in the whole world was coming out. Like that's why we have Gloomhaven and that's why we have Wingspan and that's, because they were going to be the next greatest, biggest thing. But then every once in a while, I would read a conversation that 2 or 3 people were having with each other in some of these groups. Like if you like X, Y, and Z, you will love this. Has anyone ever played this game? Like somebody started talking about viticulture one time and just the conversation they had. So I would say theme isn't super important. Like we'll play dinosaurs, trains, we'll make wine. We don't care about that. Any good theme, as long as it's fairly immersive and it isn't just kind of slapped on. You know what I'm talking about. I think they call it Eurotrash, but like we love games that are fairly immersive with the theme, but it's not a deal breaker for us. And we like a variety. We're finding now that if we only have a couple hours together, we'd rather play 3 or 4 shorter games. Like we'd rather play the Mind and Skull and Number 9, and then sit down and play, 2.5 hours of Terraforming Mars or something. We'll do both though. I don't know if I answered your question. I probably didn't. But what we try to do, if we actually go to a brick and mortar store and bring something home, we'll try to do the try before you buy or watch a Let's Play. But I kickstart 100 games a year, so it's kind of getting ridiculous. There's really no rhyme or reason. We just kind of try to read about it, listen to what other people are saying, and if we feel it, we get it.
All right, Rich?
And that was a bad answer. I'm sorry.
So I kind of have a dual mentality when it comes to acquiring games. So especially ones that I want to play with the family, which is one is from a kind of a teaching mentality, like, oh wow, this game has this particular dynamic that I think is really cool dynamic. Whether the first time we played Castle Panic was the first co-op game we'd ever play together, right? So when I saw Castle Panic, I was like, oh, I've heard of this. It's a really good cooperative game. It's simple, so great. I want this game because that's what I want to teach the kids is this dynamic, so they understand what a co-op game looks like, essentially, or at least one kind of co-op game. You know what I mean? And then there's also another kind of dynamic in my head, which is kind of, to be honest, a collector's dynamic. So, behind me, there's one of these games called History of the World. I had the original version of that a long time ago, and I lost it. And then when I saw it in the store, I was like, oh, I got to get that because I loved that game. And if I never play it again, I still want it. So I also buy games, according to that. But certainly I think the most important one is I try and, when I buy a game, it's either I know my kid is interested in X, and so I'll buy that so they'll play, or else I'll say, hey, this is a game that has a different dynamic. It's a different time period. It's a different, kind of environment. Like, oh, it's about trains instead of being about, fantasy creatures trying to kill each other. So great. It's just different, So that's kind of where I come from.
All right. Linda, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm going to stick to, how I decided on, oh God, it was so hard. Eric and I argued for the last 3 days about what to put on this list. And so the criteria are, is it currently available? Because let's face it, there are some fantastic games out there that either they're not in print, and so you have to buy a used copy, which is now $350 on eBay or something like that. So currently available. Theme is important to me just because to get kids, and the younger the kids are, the harder this is. Or sometimes when you're dealing with angsty teenagers, theme is important too. You have to get something that they can sort of see from a distance and they're going, I'm not going to play. But they see it and they're going, that looks kind of cool. So theme is important to me in this instance when we're choosing kids games. And then another is quality components. The components have to be good. We need stuff, again, and this is like the theme, it's something that's going to bring people to the table. Good quality artwork, good quality components, especially if they happen to have minifigs. That's my personal downfall because I love to paint them, right? So minifigs are cool for me. And then also, can kids play this game, like after they've learned it, can they play it on their own and also teach it to their friends when they come over? That's important to me. And finally, because I am a selfish old grandma, are these games that I would be happy to play with the kids? Because I don't want to play anything that ever even remotely resembles Snakes and Ladders again. That was a horrible game when I was a kid, and I'm not buying any game for the family that I do not actually want to play. And let me tell you, there are even like toddler games that are super engaging. So those are my criteria. Done.
Oh, that's a good criteria. Well, thank you. Well, let's go right into it. We're going to go start with that first age group, 5 to 90 years old. And we'll start with your third choice, if you can make that. I know it's not really, but you had to pick. I'm making you pick. So we'll start just in my screen with Katie, then we do Rich, and then we go with Linda. Last but not least. So go ahead, Katie. Start with your first or your third choice for the age group 5 to 9.
So when you asked this, I thought for the past 4 days, like Linda and Eric, I asked my daughter and my husband, and I was like, no, you know what? Just on the day of, I'm going to jot 3 down off the top of my head. Like just things, if a 5-year-old walked in, what would I grab off the shelf right now? And third, I would probably try The Mind. This is a little game, not a big game. It's one that you can take camping. It's one that you can play on an airplane. I don't know how much you want me to talk about the game itself, but what The Mind, yes, that's it. And remind me to take it camping tomorrow with me. So what I love about The Mind is you can play it with 3 to, it says you're only supposed to play with up to 4, but we've played it with 6. It's just everybody's quiet and you're all focused and you're just trying to put the cards down in order from 1 to 100, but everybody starts with 1 card and then 2 and then 3. And so in your mind, how quickly are you counting? You get to know people's rhythms. You get to know their behaviors. I think it's a very cool game. And it's great for that age because it's easy to explain. It's easily replayable. It's pretty. I like that game.
All right. Rich, what's your choice? You're muted.
The dog barks, so I wanted to keep it muted.
That's okay.
So, as I was saying, I'm happy to repeat this. Unlike Katie, who has no respect for preparations for this panel, I actually put some thought into it. So, so my third choice for this age group is actually Stratego. So I think it's simple. It's very simple, and it covers a lot of bases. One, it covers numbers, duh. So it covers numbers. It's very basic tactics, and it's also it's also really good at what we were talking about earlier about the whole winning and losing thing, right? Because it's very binary. So so it's also there's a fair amount of luck involved. So, you play 5 games, no matter how good a Stratego player are you, unless you use my patented always win method, which I don't use against my own kids. Unless you have some trick, then you can't win them all. right? So that's why that's my third choice.
Do you think 5 is too young for Stratego? Because I didn't start playing Stratego till I was about 8.
Well, I was thinking about the range. I think I played the first game of Stratego with Zeke when he was like 6 years old.
Yeah, perfect.
6 or 7, right?
It's definitely in the top games for all kids and adults.
Yeah, so that's fine.
All right, great, nice. And it only is 2 players, so it's not, you can focus a little bit more.
Exactly, it's not overwhelming with a bunch of different people going, a bunch of distractions,
taking their turns. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Linda, what's your choice?
Okay, so this is where I had a really tough time because the game that I would have made number 1 is not available in the US at this time. So let me just give a quick shout out to Magic Maze Kids. Buy it. It's in the EU. Do it. Anyway, yeah, that's all I'm going to say about it because my time is limited. So in my number 3 spot, I have picked a very simple game called Animal Upon Animal. It's an unlikely game or an unlikely name for an unlikely game. All it is these fantastic little meeples that are cut out of wood, and they're all in these different animal shapes. The good thing is that it's not terribly expensive. It's super bright. It's very engaging, and I have seen adults play this. Adults, and all you're doing is rolling a dice to decide how you have to stack the animals that you have to get rid of all of your animals. I cannot say enough about this game because kids are better at it than adults are, and that's a cool thing. When your little tiny kid can beat you, and actually, this is one of those that you can have kids that are under 5 actually playing. They're not going to be as successful, but it's simple. You can learn it in 5 minutes. And it's really, really fun, super colorful. The components are all made of wood, so they're great. And there's a whole bunch of expansions, so you can just keep adding to your little wooden animal collection. So there you go. I love it.
Sounds great. Thank you. So that's a nice variety of different games there, for sure. One of the bigger group, and then a very strategic one, and then sort of almost like an early party game, it seems to be.
Yep.
In a way as well. Really fun way to get engaged. Well, let's go straight through to our second place then in the top 3. So Katie, go ahead. What did you pick for your second place?
So for my second place, I chose Photosynthesis. I think it's a great themed game. It's teaching that planning ahead that Linda was talking about, like that strategy, thinking ahead. You can play with up to 4, I believe. It's one of the most beautiful games made. You're positioning, you plant seeds and you swap out a seed for a smaller tree, but you need energy to do that. You get your energy from the sun. So where you plant your trees and place them will depend how much energy you get from the sun, and people can plant around you and block that coming in. Anyway, I love it. I think it's very easy to learn. It's cool because you play it kind of in 4 seasons, and a different person goes first every time, so it's teaching kind of that kind of gameplay. Anyway, I like everything about it. I'm not sure if a 5-year-old could play it, but pretty close. I think definitely for 6 and above. You don't need to read to play it, which is nice sometimes. So yeah, that would be my second choice.
All right, thank you.
Tied with about 10 others.
Be careful, you're muted again.
Thank you. So for my second place, and again, this is for maybe not 4, 5, and 6, but definitely like 7, 8, 9 is Castle Panic. So coming from, I think it's a great way to teach a multiplayer game with some basic competitive elements, but primarily cooperative. So it's about you do have to kind of read the table, but there's no harm. It's a game where it's much easier to help somebody else like play the game without it being kind of contrary to the spirit of the game. So I like that as a way to teach a multiplayer game from the beginning as opposed to a 2-player game. I will say, as a very brief aside, for some of these younger, very, very much younger ages, 3, 4, 5, kind of ages, I think the classics are awesome. Candyland is an awesome game. There's a reason why it's been around so long, and I think that's a great game to teach these younger ranges. There's a lot of classic games out there, Connect Four, whatever, that are just classics for reasons. So they don't all have to be weird ass games like Katie has. You
need to shut up.
I'm just picking on Katie. I'm sorry.
You know what though? Like Connect Four, like there's a lot of games we're not going to say because we're trying to kind of expand horizons, maybe. But games like Ingenious and Connect Four, those are really. I mean, we play those. Like my kids are over 20, but we still play those because they're just solid and they're fun and their replayability. Like Stratego is replayable all day long. I don't care what you say. You can use the same strategy over and over. You'll fool me every time.
Yeah,
but same with Ingenious, same with Connect Four. Like you can change it up, you can leave it the same. It's still fun.
Yeah. So I know I went a little bit off the rails there, Robert, and I do apologize.
That's okay. You got to apologize to Linda because it's her time.
So Castle Panic is my second choice.
Castle Panic, second choice.
Okay, see, I'm way more organized than that, so I'm not going to drivel on. My second choice is an oddly named game called Pyramid of Penguin, like Penguin Queen, right? Pyramid of Penguin. This combines the best elements of we will all remember the old game Battleship, right? Where you sit on opposite sides of the screen and you try to figure out where the opponent's stuff is. So this is kind of like that, except for one person plays the penguin, which is a mummified penguin. And you can tell that this game evolved from a previous game that involved actual mummies and going through dusty pyramids. But, let's admit it. Penguins are cute, so everybody loves those. So in this one, there's a double-sided screen. One person plays the mummy, and they've got a magnetic movement tool. So they're using their magnetized thing to move around the map, and they have special rules. Like you roll dice to figure out who moves and how many moves they have. The little penguins are going through this ice pyramid trying to collect up different treasures that are marked on a card, but every time they collect one, it alerts the penguin to their location. And the cool thing, why they're magnetized on each side of this thing, is that if the penguin mummy moves over where your little penguin is, it snaps your penguin onto their tool, and you have to restart, right? And so it's really cool. You're not going to die. Well, actually, you are going to die if you lose 3 times, but the kids get really canny very quickly. It's like a super fast game of hide and seek where you're going around this board on both sides of the board. And I have to admit that the oddball little magnetic mechanic in this really makes the game, because it's really, when you get close to the penguin, it just goes snap right to you. I got you down. And so it's super fun. It's simple. And it's hilarious as all the little penguins try to scramble out of your way. And so sure, the adult often wants to try to play the penguin, but after a while you'll find that, can I play the penguin? The kids will want to play the chase mechanic. And it's really, really, really fun, and it's available right now, and the quality of the components is fantastic. The only disclaimer I have is that the magnets for the little characters are super small, so you may be playing the, oh my god, where did that magnet go thing at the end when you're trying to put the game away. But you can even replace them if you need to. So anyway, love that game. That Pyramid of Penguin.
I just checked if I had it behind me. I love the magnet games. We have a magnet labyrinth game as well, where you have invisible walls, and if you do it wrong, then you fall through the maze. So it's because you can't see the invisible walls, right? Because they're magnets. So it's pretty good with a mechanic underneath. So always nice when they do those kind of things. Have to check that out. Awesome. All right, that brings us to the number one in the age group. So Katie, it's your turn. That's with a lot of bravura. But why is that one your number one?
So I changed my mind so many times. I don't care what you say about preparation. There will never be enough room on a list of great games. So for just thinking about the age group and teachability and replayability, I'm going to choose Dixit, especially because of all the expansions right now. I think Dixit is lovely. I think depending on who you're playing with, it can be silly, it can be dramatic, it can be, it can be super imaginative. And so in Dixit, you get a handful of cards and take turns saying a word or a short phrase or even a sentence describing one of your cards, and you don't want to describe it so well that people are going to be able to guess what yours is, and then they look at their own and try to find one that matches what you just said as your story, and everybody tries to guess which one is the storyteller's, and they put their little, marker, they vote, and then I love it. I love it because you don't have to read, but you do have to listen to each other. You can come up with really imaginative, wonderful stories and descriptors, and the art is fantastic. The original art was, I mean, we've played it a million times now, so we're kind of bored of the original art. So we'll put it away and play expansions for a while, and then we still go back to the original art and love it all over again. So, and there are a million expansions now, or 6 or 7, same thing.
Nice. Well,
so I would say that one because, super easy to teach.
A similar game, I believe, from the same makers is Mysterium, I think, where you use also imagery to communicate. So that's really nice. Thank you. So that's your Dixit.
There are a few
Rich,
like
what's
that.
your number one?
My number one for this age group is a game that both of my boys really liked playing from 7, 8, 9 on, and their older cousins really liked playing it too. So they played it together a lot, which to me was a great dynamic, and that is Kill Dr. Lucky from the amazing James Ernest. So of course you guys probably all know the gameplay there. There's a super annoying old man that everybody hates wandering around this mansion, and you're all basically trying to kill him. And there's different tools you can use. There's different rooms that give you bonuses for those tools, and then other people have cards to try and stop you because if somebody kills them, they win, right? So it's a game with a definite start and stop. It's really possible to stalemate, which is fine. For me, this age group that's fine, and it lends itself to a lot of hilarious conversations. And everybody has a chance to at least partially succeed, right? It's like, oh, I'm using the noose from the balcony, and he's down in the ballroom, so it's going to take everybody to stop me. And then if you do get stopped, then it's like everybody's like, wow, that was good. You didn't succeed, but that was a good one. So I like those kinds of positive reinforcements for kids this age.
Thank you.
Okay, so for me, my number one game is a cooperative game, and I love this one. It's called Zombie Kids Evolution. There was an older game called Zombie Kids. This is Zombie Kids Evolution. So not only is it a co-op game, it is also a legacy game, which is amazingly cool. And it's one of those legacy games that at the end of it, once you've done all of your stuff, opened all the secret envelopes by winning individual games, you can continue playing it. But the opening envelopes and the secrets thing is really appealing to kids, and it gives them additional incentive to play. Another thing is that it's not a long game. It's 15 to 30 minutes per game, so you get through it fairly quickly. And so the theme is, the kids are in school when zombies start to attack. Obviously, these zombies are teachers, because who didn't know that? And the players have to move through the rooms in the school and through the entryways to get rid of the zombies, right? And it's fun. I don't even know how to describe it. I would love to invite you all to play it, because it's a game that we can enjoy, and especially because of the legacy thing. I mean, the iterations in the legacy are minor and simple, and therefore they're not going to throw anybody really off track in terms of how to win the game. But there is that little bit of mystery involved that makes it super, super fun to finish the missions and track their development. It uses, like most legacy games do, a series of stickers that you end up putting on your game. Anyway, great game. Zombie Kids Evolution. Highly recommended.
All right. Didn't expect a zombie game in there. That's pretty cool. All right. So we got to speed things up a little bit for the next group, just to make sure we have some time, and I do apologize. But let's go straight into the next 10 to 15. And Katie, what's your number 3?
I'm going to say Dominion. I got to get a deck builder in there, and I just think for that age, again, it has a gajillion expansions, so you have so much replayability. It's easy to set up. It's easy to learn. You build your deck and you try to earn points in the way of money and beat everybody else. And it's just really fun. You can role play while you're doing it. We have a lot of fun with Dominion. If we just want to have just an easy game to throw on the table and play and have a lot of fun quickly, Dominion's a really good one.
Yeah, it's also one of those gateway games if you really want to get into something else that is not the ones that people might be familiar with if they haven't played more board games.
And I could have said Clank, and I could have said Seven
Yeah.
Wonders, but I could have said, we just got one called The Village, which is really cute too, or Above and Below. Like there's so many that are like this, even Small World. But I just love Dominion just because I love seeing people's shelves, and it's like they have all these different board games, and then they have one long shelf that's just all Dominion games because there's so many. So I just chose that as kind of a catch-all for that genre.
Everybody except me. I am just not a Dominion fan. So you'll have to convert me in the future sometime. I'll come over and visit.
Yeah, you got to get that winning combo going. And then when that engine gets humming along, then boom, boom, boom. I don't know. I like it. I'm boring, maybe, but I like it.
Well, thank you. Good choice. Rich.
So speaking of role play, I think Katie's absolutely right there. And my choice here is actually basic Dungeons and Dragons. I think by this point, they need to learn about how role play works, how you identify yourself with a character, or with board games with a side or a personality, or those kinds of things. So I think that teaching role playing and of course the system, the point system, strength, dexterity, charisma, all that kind of stuff, those things that happen in board games as well. So I think it's a really good building block for not only other role-playing games, so it's kind of a catch-all. Back here I have Gamma World and Top Secret and all kinds of crazy-ass old RPGs. So, but that's mine. I think at this point, before you get into much more complicated games going forward, it's so much fun to empathize with a side or a character in a board game, and tell those stories that I think this is a good time to introduce D&D.
Big fan of D&D myself. Nice choice. Linda.
Excellent.
Okay, my number 3 is a game that I didn't think I would like. I am very, very suspicious of games that are based on recognized IPs. I'm going to make an exception in this case because this is a great game. Kung Fu Panda, the board game. It's good. You play as one of the Furious Five, or Po, of course, the panda himself, and each character has their own special skill. Po can heal himself. Mantis can move well through the terrain, and so on. The quality of the components is excellent. This does come with minifigurines, and then there are these little tile cards that you use to set up the scenarios, and it's a lot of dice rolling. If you're playing with somebody on the younger side of this category, you might want to eliminate the timer, but if you do not eliminate the timer, it becomes a dice rolling frenzy, and it's really, really super fun to play. You have to defeat villains. It's another cooperative game, which again I really like, especially for the sensitive teenage group who might be tired of having to compete with each other all the time. Anyway, it's really terrific. I couldn't say enough about this game. Kung Fu Panda, the board game. Go get it.
Awesome, great to know.
Wow.
And in considering also having IP-based board games, I think lately Ravensburger has been really kicking it out of the park with games such as Villainous from Disney, with Jaws, Jurassic Park. They have a lot of games out. So your local Target should have a lot of them. They're not very expensive. They're theme-based, so people recognize it. Then they're actually great game mechanics, and I'm glad that they stepped up on that and really stepped into that category with it. They're really worth it to check out as well. All right, so your number 2 in the category of 10 to 15. Kate?
Dice Throne. I'm going to say Dice Throne all day long because it's like D&D light. Not in the way that Expedition is. Expedition is literally like the guy is telling you what to do, and it's deck building, and you just keep rehashing the spells. And if you haven't played Expedition and you want to teach your kids D&D early, Expedition's great, and it comes with an app, but it's really well done. But Dice Throne is and they have all kinds of characters, and there's all kinds of expansions, and I know the guys that made it, which obviously helps, and it's my son's favorite and has been since he was 15. You've got paladins and mages, and and it's kind of you have your own deck, and you have your own abilities, and you have your own, some heal, some don't, some are tankier, some some have snares. It's really, really cool. But so you get your own little, when Rich is talking, I'll take it out so I can show you, but you each get your own little package character, and so you have your own little play mat, and you have all your own spells and dice and everything, and it's like kind of Yahtzee meets D&D is what I'm going to say. It's like Yahtzee meets WoW, really. But it's PvP, so you can play one-on-one, or you can play like 17 people against each other. You just change the number of health points everybody has at the start. If there's only 2 of you, you start with more health points. And it's last man standing. It's really fun. It's like a little battle royale. I love it. And it's awesome. You go, Rich. Right. I'll find the game.
Have to check it out. Rich.
So my number 2 here is It's Time to Get Serious. So Avalon Hill's Civilization, which is a classic game, has been around forever and has many, many, many dynamics that modern games build on or incorporate. It's essentially, ancient history. The main map is essentially the Mediterranean. You start with one guy, and then you build up, you build cities. You get technologies, ancient technologies, like pottery and sail making and all,
What game did he say?
Avalon Hill Civilization.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So there's a trading aspect because you get commodities and then you trade commodities. So there's a bunch of different aspects to the game. There's great randomization. So you get hit by a civil war twice in a row, then you ain't going to win. But it's also a game where you can do crazy, wacky stuff, even if you're not going to win. So there's all kinds of things incorporated in this game. And a kid from 12 on, can easily understand the dynamics and the mechanics of the game and be able to play it and succeed. It's one of my favorites. Only drawback is it takes a long time to play. But like I said, hey, it's time to get serious. So this shows them if they like, doing the whole I'm going to play a game all Saturday kind of thing, which I grew up doing, then this is the one to start with. So that's my number 2 pick.
All right.
So if I'm looking it up, is that the Gibson's edition?
Linda, he left. Going while he.
Sorry.
Yeah, he left. Yeah. So my next choice, number 2, and I almost put this in the younger kids category too, because it really is a crossover, and that is Potion Explosion. It's a game that I love as an adult. It's a fantastic gateway game. If I've got new people over who haven't played games before and they're very leery of getting stuck in a 4-hour war game that Rich would make them play, then Potion Explosion is fantastic. It's very tactile because it has the wonderful ramps with the marbles coming down on them. And the rules are very, very simple. You can explain them quickly. And the only difference between playing it with adults or the 10 to 15 set and kids or younger kids is that if you're playing with a younger group, make it so that the potions, you're not using the potions that you create because they all have different effects when you flip them over and so on. Eliminate that, and then it's a fantastic game for the really young kids set. But for the older set or for adults, it's really fun. It's pattern recognition. It's basically a set collection game, and there's nothing more fun than having those marbles roll down there and planning out which ones you're going to take to create more marble sets. And it's just a great game. Potion Explosion really works for the younger set, this middle set, as well as adults. I've never met anybody who didn't like this game. So another one I recommend, go out and get Potion Explosion.
I hear about
also
that one a lot.
Choice. There's also an app because that's how easy it is. So you can actually play it on the app and it plays just the same. So, but it's true. The marbles is very good tactile feel as well. It's very nice.
So our good friend Dad Geek here, Rob, has actually built his own. They have a cardboard thing that you put together for the marbles to roll down, but he built one himself, which is really great. And I want to know when those are going to come available on the market for sale.
Put them on
Because I'd like
Etsy.
to buy one. They're
I lost
super
my
cool.
laser printer guy that did it for me.
So
but I will put a
nice.
picture up on the feed when this is done so that we can see
Okay,
it.
great.
So I want to show you quick. These are the dice thrown, like there's the samurai. See, it comes in its own little box. So if you want to be the samurai, if you want to be, like, they're just gorgeous. The tactician, and there's a huntress, and like there's a pally. I always play the mage. There's a vampire. Like, you can have everything. There's a cursed pirate. Yeah. So, and that's only season 2, and they're coming out with, like, I just keep kickstarting every single one because they're fantastic.
Good plug. All right, we have about a minute each for your number one. So let's go straight through there. What's your number one, Katie?
I just have to pick the game that my kids keep every time we sit down and we've got a couple hours. They just keep saying, just play that because it's our favorite, and that's Terraforming Mars. They'll play it all day long, every day, forever. They love it, love it, love it. It's just long enough. Like, it's a, probably a good hour and a half to 2 hour game. They love that it's an engine game. They like that the theme actually fits the game. And they like that you can play it with 5 players. And you have to really think. There's a lot of things going on. It's not super easy to teach. I find that when we sit down to teach it, we always forget one thing, and you have a lot of, oh yeah, another thing we forgot to tell you. But once you know it, it's just, every time we play it, it really wakes up our brains to, I don't know. I know it's not that difficult compared to Rich's games, but that's one that's a nice middle of the road, I think, for that age group.
All right, Terraforming Mars. Didn't expect that. Nice choice. Rich.
So my number one choice for this age group is a game that my kids really likes. I kind of go on the same as Katie here. They really like it. It's one of their favorites. We like playing it all the time, and it's one they've taken and taught their friends how to play, which I think is super important. So as far as like your evolution as a gamer, if that's what you want to do. So and that is, it's kind of a generic choice, I suppose, but it is what it is. It's Small World. My kids love Small World. It's funny, when I first got it, I was like, hey, wait a minute, this is the same kind of game methodology as History of the World, which is you play a side, acquire territory, and then that side, it kind of goes into decline, and you get a new side, and then a new side, that kind of stuff. That's History of the World too. So when I saw that, game dynamic, I was like, oh, that's really cool, because I know that one, and I thought it was brilliantly done. And so that's one of our favorites, and so I had to go with that for number one.
Good choice.
Right, thank you. Linda.
Okay, so my number one is a game, again, that I wasn't expecting to like. So let me just say that as an adult, I'm a huge fan of the game Scythe. I think it's extremely well done, and it's very challenging, and it's wonderful. So when I heard about this, it's My Little Scythe. When you first look at it, it looks like a cross between My Little Pony and Scythe, and I thought, this is going to be terrible. Instead, it's number one. So yes, the characters are super, super, super cute. Special request to Rob in the notes for this. Please put a picture of some of the characters up. They come unpainted, which is a bonus for me because I love painting miniatures. This is a fantastic game. It is an economic game. It's an exploration game. There is some fighting. Admittedly, they're pie fights, but that's okay. There's still fights, and you still lose and get sent back to your home encampment. This actually started out as a fan-created print-and-play game for Scythe, and Stonemeyer Games liked it so much they made it into a full game. And yes, it's cutesy, yes, it's bright, yes, it's colorful, but it is a complicated game, and it's really, really, really fun. And so I predict that people will play this multiple times, and it's another one of those games that's so incredibly good looking on the table that it's going to entice kids that don't necessarily play games to try it. And it is a smart game. I really love it. I know it's won a number of awards as well, and it is currently my favorite game for this age group.
Well, I'd like to thank you all for being on the panel. I wish we had
Thank you.
hours and hours to talk about this. Fantastic choices. I'm glad you could share that with me, share that with the audience, and also the audience. Thank you for being here. And if you have any questions at any time, we should by now be somewhere in the chat there, or is it below? I think it's YouTube. Ask your questions. We'll answer them for you. And we love to have that communication with you. If you have questions about the games you mentioned, if you have questions about other games you're wondering about, the board game community is a very generous one, so feel free to ask, and I'm sure other than us, also other people will be willing to help you out. Well, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your PAX. Stay safe, stay sane, and we'll see you all, hopefully in person, at the next PAX. Thank you very much, everybody. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Robert. Bye.